of American communities. And during the upsurge in gang violence, you were active in promoting Latino-Black Alliance to confront the challenges of the gang violence in between the two communities. And you also traveled across the world for a friendship tour to make connections between the nation and brothers and sisters abroad. All these efforts point to a commitment towards building the kinds of alliances you were just talking about. What are some of the challenges you faced in these efforts to build these alliances? And what can these experiences teach other Muslim organizations about how to build coalitions?
Well, if Islam is feared by the U.S. government and the neoconservatives that run it, they don't want to see us come out of the masjid and begin proselytizing our faith. Most of our Arab Muslim and Pakistani Muslim family, when they come to the United States, they come to take part in the American success story, not necessarily to convert Americans into Islam, because the masjid is not made friendly to outsiders if the khutbah is in Urdu or the khutbah is in Arabic, and you don't invite your neighbors to come in to the masjid during a taslim service or where you're explaining Quran. So we make it a habit to go out among the disbelieving public and invite them to the mosque. We don't necessarily invite them to the prayer service because they may not understand our bending, our bowing, our prostration. That they have to be taught how to respect that. So we bring them in and teach them first, then prayer. So our efforts have been pretty good, but we have severe opposition. Severe opposition. In our efforts across the world, they have been very successful. I have to say that I'm very well respected in many Muslim circles throughout the Muslim world. My biggest problem is here in the United States among those who are called Orthodox Muslims that don't understand our methodology or our way, and even some of our teachings, and then we don't dialogue. I've asked for it. Come on, let's talk about these things. And on some occasions we've recorded. The Imam and I have been on television together with some of our Pakistani brothers asking questions about Elijah Muhammad, Farad Muhammad, and our way of looking at them. And it broadcast our answers, but the dialogue is not there yet. But I'm hoping that as America gets more and more involved in war with Muslim countries, and the persecution of Muslims intensifies in America, as it will, then as Muslims, we have to come together to offer protection to each other when the forces in America say we don't want any Islam in this country. As it's stirring up in Europe now, it will stir up in America as well.
The Nation of Islam has generally been a movement for alleviating the ills in the black community in particular. How successful has it been, looking back on the career of the nation and your career, in addressing these problems, and what do you see still needs to be done?
The problem still remains, and work still needs to be done. Islam is a civilizing force. Islam is a transformative force. And in a culture that is so degenerate, people may like the message, but are not yet willing to say, I'm going to give up my alcohol, my marijuana, my heroin, my cocaine, my pork chops, and I'm not willing to give up romancing the beautiful ladies. And so I like the teachings, they will say, but I'm not ready yet. There are millions that have heard the message, but the world has such a pull on them that they will like it, but they don't want to be transformed. So it's just a handful in comparison to the number that accept to be transformed by the power of Islam and to live an Islamic life. So Martin Bashir, when I did an interview with him for Nightline, talked about the condition of black people, and does this mean that you have been ineffective in changing the condition of your people? I said, in a sense, you could say that. But the Quran never put on the Prophet anything other than a clear delivery of the message. And Allah asked the Prophet, why would you grieve yourself, or would you? Because you can't make them Muslims. So I can't grieve myself over the fact that my people are slow in responding to the call to Islam. But the Quran says when Allah's help and victory comes, you see men entering the religion of Allah in companies, but that won't happen until the help of Allah Himself comes and the chastisement begins to come on America and us. Then people start saying, whoa, well, I better change my way. And that's the way it was. If we study Quran, all of the prophets that are mentioned to Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet Nuh, Prophet Lot, the Prophet Saleh, Hud, Lut. These men preached. They didn't convert the people. It didn't mean that they failed. Mm-hmm. Their preaching was a witness against the wickedness of the people of their day that earned them the judgment of Allah. So in the days of Noah, he preached. The people didn't accept. In the days of Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah, the homosexual behavior that Allah said was an abomination, they didn't accept Lot. So his preaching to them was a witness against them, so that when the time of preaching was up and the chastisement came, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. So it will be today. You preach to people because that's your duty as a follower of the Prophet. You try to guide them. You try to warn them of a chastisement that will afflict us who just reject truth. Mm-hmm. And then you wait on Allah. You work and you wait. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But I believe that Islam will be very successful in America in spite of the power of our government and the media control to poison the hearts and minds of the people against Islam. The Quran says they try to put out the light of Allah with their mouths, but Allah will perfect His light, though the polytheists may be averse. This is Allah's religion, and He will make the people to be Muslims in His own good time.
Unlike other religious organizations, the Nation of Islam has a well-defined program for social and economic empowerment. How successful has that program been throughout your position as the leader of the Nation of Islam?
It has been successful to a degree, not as much as I would like. We have mosques and study groups in over 120 cities in the United States, in Great Britain, in France, in Ghana, in Sierra Leone, in South Africa, and wherever there is a mosque or study group, we try to set up a school, and we try to pool our resources for economic development. We have farmland in upstate New York, farmland in Georgia, farmland in Michigan, where we try to produce food for our community. We encourage the believers to go into business to supply the needs of the community and pooling their resources to do that. We're doing that all over the country. But the mosque itself, we have built a $5 million restaurant that we had to close because it wasn't supported well. But inshallah, we intend to open in a few months. Business is difficult. Some of us are very successful, and some of us are still trying to be successful, but we know it's something that we must do, because there'll come a time when the slave master's children will say to us, well, if you're a Muslim, we're not going to hire a Muslim. So we have to be in a position to hire each other. And the only way we can do that is through economic development. We could do much better in that area.
Is it something that you would promote for, or sort of instruct other Muslim communities to do the same sort of activities, to not just build a mosque, but to actually engage in social and political or economic development?
Absolutely. I have heard that as males, we can go to public schools dressed as you are dressed, and we don't stand out. But when our sisters go to public school wearing the hijab, they find difficulty. So it is best that when we set up a masjid, that we try to set up a school for our young people, that they can learn in an Islamic environment where it won't be so hard on the girls in particular and the boys. And so we try to set that kind of an example, and we encourage that among all Muslims, that we should set up our own schools, pool our resources, and set up clinics and different kinds of things to serve the needs of our people.
We just went to the Iman Center yesterday. You were aware with, that center?
No.
Or what does it stand for again? Where's my photographer? What does Iman stand for again? Islamic Inner City Muslim Action Network.
That's wonderful.
And they're inspired by some of the work is coming from the idea of the Nation of Islam. Roosevelt, California. They have no strings attached. They have a computer office there for brothers and sisters. They have an apartment for brothers coming out of prison.
We have the same.
Yeah.
But all of this is good.
Yeah.
And we can't do enough.
Right.
So if all of us got involved and did what we could do, then we could improve a lot of our people, our Muslim community, much better than we're doing.
While most political commentators are focusing on Brother Obama, little attention has been given to the fact that U.S. Congress has its first Muslim congressman, Keith Ellison. Mr. Ellison is a black man and a Muslim, two features that make him as controversial as he is promising in some ways. What can you say about his election and its implications, if any, for the future of Islam or Muslims in the United States?
Well, we do need a Muslim voice in Congress. It is our hope that Allah will bless him in spite of the forces that would like to use him in a time period like this as a poster child that America wants and has a Muslim in Congress, they were very opposed to him. And it was the Somali community where he lives, there's a great number there, that helped to put him in office. Now that he's there, his wisdom and skill, because he wanted to take his oath of office on the Quran, and you saw what it brought up. But he used the Quran of Thomas Jefferson to say the oath of office, and that quieted them down. He has to be very skillful, because most of the Congress, Senate and House of Representatives are under the control of the Zionists. And our fear is that whoever we send, the Zionists will always try to get them to bend or bow to Zionist designs and desires. And once you don't bow to that, through AIPAC, they'll send money into your community and raise up a candidate to defeat you because you are not going along with Zionist desires. So he's in a hotbed of tremendous skill in twisting and turning people from their objectives when they come to their objectives as they stay there and want to stay there. So our prayers are that Allah will guide him and protect him as he tries to serve his constituents in the best interests of the country.
The Nation of Islam has historically been quite political. However, it has never entered the political arena in any formal capacity that I'm aware of. Is this part of an effort to keep the nation at a grassroots level, or do you foresee or promote for the future having more direct political participation?
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept us out of politics, but he encouraged us in other ways to try to put some of our own kind into office. We realize that there's some gain in politics, but it's not the answer to the problem of our people. So we tried to run 2 or 3 candidates out of Washington, D.C. for Congress. We weren't successful, but it was our entry. Now that Keith Ellison is there, we hope one day to have a Muslim. And we have Muslims now in state legislatures, Muslim judges, Muslims that are in the political fabric of the United States. Not nearly enough, but our hope is that we can use politics to advance our agenda for the uplift of our people.
Many people feel Obama has a real chance at the White House. Does this mean that the U.S. has progressed in terms of race and politics, or is this an exception?
I believe that he does have a real chance. But that doesn't say that even if he gets the chance, he can change America's course. There are too many forces that are already like leeches on him right now. And one of them is AIPAC. And all of the congressmen and senators and vice president and others that went to the AIPAC meeting, they all were stumbling over each other to show their allegiance to the Zionist cause. Barack Obama was one of them. And so no matter how fresh his approach is, and I believe he's going to be very successful, I worry that it'll be more of the same with a black face. And if he ever tries to really use the power of his office to change the direction of this country, he may end up like JFK or other presidents that were assassinated by those forces that want the president to serve the multinational corporations and the international bankers and their aims.
Was it an exception for him to get as far as he's gotten, or does he as a politician, a black man active in American politics, reflect a genuine change in the attitudes of white America politically towards black America?
I do think there's a change in the attitude of whites in America. I think he has more grassroots white, black, Hispanic support than Hillary Clinton. More support of young people who have not voted between the ages of 18 and 35. I think he's formidable. And that does say that there is a change. When you see young whites, and you go in their homes and there's a picture of a black athlete on their walls, or 80% or 60% of those who buy hip-hop, maybe even more, are young white people. And the hip-hop artists are generally black. Well, there's a change in the youth. So for a young man like Barack Obama, who has that kind of appeal, which he does have, he can really cause a great stir in the Democratic Party and in the national political scene of America.
In recent interviews, you've used the metaphor of a prison to describe your current state. What did you mean by that, and in what sense can you say then you're free?
As you know, I have been charged in the general community with being anti-white, anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-gay, and my statements changed or out of context makes me appear as that. And since the media has designed a way for me to be seen, that way that they wish for me to be seen has become a prison that they won't let me out of on their own free will. Every time that I have a major interview, they want to ask me, well, you're the man that called Hitler great, or you're the man that described Judaism as a gutter or a dirty religion. And no matter how many times I have answered that over the last 21 years, it still dogs me, because that's where they want to keep me. And so I'm breaking out, because white America now is getting to hear me a little different than a soundbite. And I have many white followers now. They tell me that there's a chat room on internet, the white followers of Farrakhan. Well, I wouldn't have white followers if they saw me as anti-white. I see that I'm gradually beginning to break through the propaganda. And even my hardcore Jewish, I would call them detractors, they have to back up some, because the masses of my people, and now many Gentiles, are listening to Farrakhan and have a different view of me altogether. Have you been to Cuba?
No, I haven't, unfortunately. My parents have a strong feeling towards Castro, and it sort of hindered my ability to travel there. So I've traveled to other Latin American countries except the one that my family comes from.
Maybe, inshallah, you should go. Because if you love Prophet Muhammad for what Prophet Muhammad did for the poor and the weak of the society of his day, it's very difficult to go to Cuba and not commend Fidel Castro for free education all the way through to college, free health care. And even though the homes that the Cuban may live in may not be up to what we have in America, they don't have Cubans living under bridges, homeless, after serving their country. Many of those who left Cuba with great dislike for Fidel was because he took land from the rich landowners and began to share it with the peasants. If Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, rose to power in Cuba, what he might do would be similar. It's criminal that in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Lesotho, in other countries, whites have hectares of arable land, and blacks who are the dispossessed in their own land have nothing or very little. So if you want agrarian land reform, then you're a communist or you're a socialist. Well, if that's what communism is, give me more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least the poor are being considered. This is what Chavez is doing in Venezuela, and this is what has caused him to be negatively looked upon as a dictator, when America has set up dictators throughout Central America and even in Cuba, so that the multinational corporations, United Fruit Company, the gamblers, the criminal element, could gain great footholds in Cuba as long as they didn't disturb the status quo. But revolution came from the little man.
Mm-hmm.
And those who were living well, unfortunately, suffered because Castro took away their land and some of their fine mansions and whatnot. So there's a lot of hatred for him that, according to a personal view, it may feel justified. But when I look at what he's done for the masses under sanctions, I have to give him credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope that at some point, as a journalist, you would travel.
We're hoping to go to Cuba. And I feel that the
Do you speak Spanish?
Yes. And the generations that, were the first generation of people that left Cuba